Hello and welcome back to Just Follow Joy. My name is Ariana, not Joy, and Caitlin's with us. Caitlin hasn't been on the podcast in forever, and I'm so
I
excited.
know.
So it's
I'm
good.
excited. Thanks for having me back. It's a good time all around.
It is.
Yeah.
And we got a big one today. We are so
Oh,
excited. We bought shirts for this episode. I texted Caitlin and I was like, wait, do we need shirts for this? Because I think we need shirts for this. But we're talking about the charts of Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. So we're looking at the human design charts and their composite chart. So how those interact, and then also from astrology's perspective as well, Western
hmm
astrology. So
hmm
so that's what we're getting into.
It's a
And
good day.
it is a good day, guys. Guys, this we have
Get excited.
so many notes. We have so
We
many
printed
notes.
our notes. You printed our
I
notes.
did print our notes and I forgot to collate them because I didn't know what that meant. So when it asked me, do you want to collate pages? I was like,
You're like,
no.
get out of here.
It's like, that sounds lame. Turns out page collation is not lame. Tell your friends. Anyway, so before we get started, we have a couple of notes that we agreed we should let you know. These are for fun. Celebrity chart readings are for fun. So we don't know these people. We're not saying we know them or everything about them, unlike most Reddit threads on the relationship. There are, there are going to be parts of their personalities, their lives, their careers, relationships to each other. We are inevitably going to leave out because, like, you can't encapsulate one person in an episode, much less their relationship to somebody else. So even if we could know everything about them, we cannot, and we accept that. And then the other thing, and I think this is really important to know just for like our listeners' sake, if you have something in common with someone's chart, if we point out a part of their chart, or anyone's chart ever, like we're not saying that this is necessarily like why they are the way they are or why they did certain things, because this is part of their chart. Like we're really just saying that it is interesting that they have this in their chart. And we see, we sometimes see people who have this in their chart played out the way that they played it out. And so just because of that. So we're not saying that they're anything in their human design chart or their astrology chart were motivation or the reason for doing something, especially because, and Caitlin noted this in our Google Doc, I think it's really important to know that everyone in Fleetwood Mac did a shit ton of cocaine. So there
Yes,
was a
so
lot of drugs. Just keep that in mind because that might have been the main motivator for why they did certain things.
I think that affected a lot of things.
I hear it does. And then also we try our very best to be as accurate as possible with facts, events, quotes. And if we get something wrong, I'm so sorry, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. I'm sure you care so very much. And also, if you're like in the comments saying like, "Well, I know them and they aren't like that," why the fuck are you here? What are we even doing? What are we doing here? Connect us to Lindsey
Yeah, connect
Buckingham and
us.
Stevie
If they're in
Nicks.
the comments and you know them and you're not making that introduction, thanks a lot.
Also, I was telling Caitlin, if I had done, like, we did so much research. We did so much research for this
No, this was like
episode.
true hyperfixation.
It was.
Yeah.
I told Caitlin, I was like, I'm gonna have dreams about Fleetwood Mac tonight, and there's nothing I can do about it at this point. And I
And you
did.
did.
I had a dream that Stevie Nicks was the godmother of this little girl who used to bully me in elementary school. And I was like, I believed in you.
Not the
Anyway.
godmother of your bully.
Not the God. No, it was terrible. But anyway, if I was telling Caitlin, if I had done if I had done a fraction of the due diligence
Yeah.
that I did for learning about Fleetwood Mac for our episode on Bhagwan Rajneesh, aka Osho, then I would not have received a displeased email from someone who had lived on his communist. Which was fair. She was right. She said there were three things I got wrong. Two of them were just, she didn't think that they had the context that they should have, but one of them was like straight up for sure wrong. Like so wrong that you could tell from reading the first paragraph of his Wikipedia article that it was incorrect. And I was like, that's on me. That's completely on me.
It's so funny. Well, we're a Libra and a Gemini. So
We are.
like I think the essence of it is like
It's not
do
our
your own fact checking and research. But also like I'm sure you found this in the research you did for them too. There's so much back and forth. And it's like even Stevie in an interview, like 1 month to the next month, says something completely different about her relationship with Lindsey. And so it's kind of like, okay, who actually knows what was going on
Yeah,
with a lot
and
of
Lindsey
this?
Buckingham just pretends that nothing,
He's
anything
like,
he
everything's
did,
great.
yeah, everything's great, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like there's so much more information on this relationship from Stevie Nicks' side than Lindsey Buckingham because what he either says is nothing, Or he says, I plead the fifth. Or he's like,
Or he's
I
like,
don't
we're
really,
close.
seriously, we're close. And I don't remember it happening that way. He has, of course, said some things about the relationship throughout the years. So, for example, he said, I met her when I was about 16. So it's been most of my life. Sadly, probably the lion's share of those years, there has been distance and animosity of some kind, mixed in with other things too. It's never been just one thing. Which I don't know if Stevie Nicks agrees with that, but whatever. And then also, I just had to include this because it made me laugh so hard when I heard it. In an interview, he was asked what Go Your Own Way and Secondhand News, which are both songs on the Rumors album, were about. And he said, well, they're about my relationship with Stevie. And he says, quote, both of those are saying, hey, I'm resigned to whatever happens, but it's a damn shame and it's not what I want. And I think Secondhand News at least has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor in it because it's basically saying, as a contingency, if you ever get lonely, I'm always willing to proposition you. Which is like, at least, points for honesty there. And by the way, so Caitlin and I were talking about this earlier. In the documentary, Don't Stop, at one point at the end, Stevie Nicks is saying, like, Lindsey and I are never going to be touchy-feely. Like, we're never going to be friends. Maybe one day when we're 75 years old. Well, it turns out 75 was the year, people, because this year they're releasing their album Buckingham Nicks, which is what they released as, unfortunately, a failed album, as a musical duo before they joined Fleetwood Mac. So this is also why this is perfect timing for us to do this episode.
Very timely. I'm so excited for it too.
Oh my God. All right. Do we want to start off with the
General
notes?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we should. Let's give some context, just some timeline.
Yes. Let's give them some timeline. We thought this was really fascinating, and I think it's great context. And if you don't want to listen to this and you just want to get to the part about the chart, like we have timestamps. You can fast forward. You have the technology. The first thing to know about Fleetwood Mac is that the consistent theme with this band has always been that they have created great music and they've been received quite well, but they've also been one giant clusterfuck. Like that is since the beginning of their band, this has been the case. It's the only through line of this band. The band was formed in 1967 by Peter Green. He's the founding member. Mick Fleetwood and John McVie were the rhythm section. Mick Fleetwood, if you didn't know, was the drummer of Fleetwood Mac, and John McVie was the bassist. Even though Peter Green was the frontman, he didn't actually want to be the face of the band because he didn't want to he didn't want to set himself up in any way to be picked out as a solo artist or the artist. He said specifically he didn't want to become an Eric Clapton or something like that. So he wanted to be part of a band. And because of that, he said we should name ourselves Fleetwood Mac after Mick Fleetwood and John McVie, who is the Mac. That turned out to be a very good idea because until the lineup that we all know and love today solidified, Mick Fleetwood and John McVie were the only members of the band who stayed through the many, many iterations of Fleetwood Mac. There were literally only two who have lasted since 1967.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And also a really long time though to be in a band together. I would love to see the numbers on how many other bands have lasted for so long.
That's true.
Yeah.
You want to know something else really cute? Is that they both live in Hawaii, but they live on different islands.
Oh,
yeah.
That is sweet.
Love that for them. They deserve it, man. They grew up in England.
Deserve it.
If you've lived your life in England, I really feel like you deserve to end up. I don't care what you've done, unless you're a criminal, you deserve to end up in a tropical location for going through
to be in Hawaii.
That weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this band was essentially a revolving door of musicians. By 1973, they lost Peter Green, who started the band, to mental illness, which pretty much all of them believe was drug-induced psychosis, and they attribute this to some bad acid that he took in Germany. But some of the signs of pre-existing mental illness were already there. He was you can even look into the lyrics that Peter Green was writing, and they were I am a man in turmoil. Oh. So he was if you just looked a little closer, you'd see it. Their slide guitarist, Jeremy Spencer, had gone out to buy a magazine from a bookstore while they were on tour. It was right before they actually had a show that night. It was right before they were supposed to get ready to go. And he was I'm just going to head out. I'm going to go to the bookstore, get a magazine. And then he never came back because along the way, he was recruited by the Children of God religious group aka cult. Like it's for sure a cult. I'm sorry, it is.
That is
And
so crazy.
yeah, but
I
and
didn't know that.
yeah, and I was like, oh man, he was a golden opportunity. Like they won him over immediately, but apparently he was already having issues with the band and their drug use because
Mm.
he was it seemed like he was a practicing Christian or he was already interested in it because he would read the Gideon Bible in the different hotel rooms that they were in and he was a little bit more withdrawn and he said later that he actually didn't want to be a part of the band anymore or he just didn't want to be a part of this scene but he didn't know how to tell them.
Oh,
So yeah, it was kind of like his way out. But he's
yeah.
I don't know,
He was a
man.
prime opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this about cults, but they tend to prey on people who are in personal turmoil or struggle. And he's actually still affiliated with the
Really?
group.
Wow.
Yep. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
The other guitarist, Danny Kirwan, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, had left the band due to alcohol dependency. And this had become obvious to the band that he had alcohol dependency and also maybe some mental issues at the time when he slammed his guitar against a wall in the dressing room of their venue in LA.
Oh
He
my
was
God.
like, I'm out. And just if you didn't know I was out, I'm out. And then they hired another guitarist, Bob Weston, and they were like, awesome, great. And they got an album out of that. And then he had an affair with Mick Fleetwood's wife, Jenny Boyd. So the band was kind of built on this instability from the get-go. You know, it wasn't just like when Lindsey and Stevie joined that things exploded and like right when Rumors was released. It's basically always been like this. But one win is that during this time span, they gained Christine Perfect, aka Christine McVie, as she was known later when she married John McVie, the bassist, as a keyboardist in 1970. And from that moment on, I'm pretty sure she was their primary vocalist, if not their only vocalist.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Fleetwood Mac went through a lot of other stuff. They broke up, and then it basically because Mick Fleetwood found out that Bob Weston had been sleeping with Jenny Boyd. They were on tour at the time in the US and they had just started their tour. And he was like, no, fuck this. Absolutely not. First off, I can't play on stage knowing this has happened. I need time to process this. And secondly, I can't play with this motherfucker who was sleeping with my wife. Hell no. And so the band broke up and they had 26 dates left to perform for in the United States. And they told their manager, sorry, we're not doing it. And the manager was like, okay, not sure what I'm going to do about that. Like, I have my reputation to protect, and they're all going to come after me, probably for money if I don't put someone up there. And so he created the new Fleetwood Mac, and he was like, listen, I own the name of this band, so I'm going to put together some people from another band called Legs, which apparently they were really, really good musicians. Like,
Mm.
they were good, but they weren't Fleetwood Mac. And so he pulled all of them together, called them Fleetwood Mac because he was like, technically you are. I have the name. Anybody who is a musician in a band that I manage is Fleetwood Mac. Puts them on stage, and they do well at first because people like they're good.
Hmm.
Until people find out they're not Fleetwood Mac. And
Can
then
you imagine?
unsurprisingly people are not pleased.
Can you imagine you're like gonna go see Fleetwood Mac and then you're like grooving to the band. They're like, yeah, they're really good. And then you're like, wait a second, those aren't the guys.
It's Tame and Polo.
Yeah.
No wonder I still like them, but what the fuck? You just get up close to them and it's like a bunch of people
You're
who
like,
kind of look like them. They just like got
you're like, I'm
doppelgangers.
pretty sure that's not them. Like, I can't Google it
I
right
can't
now.
I
It's
can't
like 1967, but like that can't be them.
One of them's wearing like a fake mustache pretending to be John McVie. The band when they got back together, they were like, we're Fleetwood Mac. But the manager was like, no, you're not. I own this name. And they'd fired him. So they were like, we're not
Mm.
working with you anymore. And they said, no, that's not true.
Mm.
How you don't have a legal right to our name. Fun fact, he did. One of them, they still don't know how this happened. And I'm like, this seems like an oversight. One of them signed away the rights to the name Fleetwood Mac. They still don't know what it was. They don't know how it happened.
Oh my God.
And so somewhere along the way, I feel like it was like right in the middle of a very long contract.
Totally. And they're like, whatever, yeah, represent us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But they were like, okay, well, fuck this. They got tied up in court for like 4 years and eventually they reached a settlement. But for whatever reason, they were like, you know what? Forget it. Let's get a fresh start. Let's go to California. They'd gained Bob Welch as their new guitarist. By the way, Ebony Eyes by Bob Welch. It's really good. He was
Mm.
a very good solo artist. So they moved to California. Right before that, they had released another album that did well, but it didn't do as well as they had wanted to at this point. Because this was like, I think this was their 10th album, like somewhere around there,
Wow.
10th Fleetwood Mac album. And like they had success. They'd had success since the beginning, but it was never quite what they wanted. It wasn't like really global success. They did well in England. I think did well. It did well enough in the United States for them to tour.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really what they had been looking for. And Bob Welch had actually said, we were all discouraged that Heroes Are Hard to Find, which was the name of their latest album, hadn't done better. Something needs to change, but what? There was also a kind of fatigue, anger, and bitterness. I read that completely wrong. There was there was also a kind of fatigue, anger, and bitterness that all the work we had done hadn't really paid off. And we were just all sort of shaking our heads saying, what do we do now? Everyone knew that we had to find some new creative juice. Enter our dynamic duo, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, baby. So let's talk about Lindsey and Stevie. And do you want me to keep reading these notes? Are you cool with this?
I'm totally down with that,
Okay.
but do you need a break?
No,
How are you
I'm
doing?
cool.
Okay.
I love talking.
You're crushing it. Keep
Okay,
going.
thank you. I just I didn't want you to feel like you weren't part of this.
Oh no. I'm throwing in my piece.
Okay. Lindsey was born Lindsey Adams Buckingham on October 3rd, 1949 in Palo Alto, California. He's a NorCal Libra, like myself, and that is where the similarities end. Okay, sorry, we both have Venus and Scorpio. We'll get to it.
Yeah, you already knew that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
actually. But something before this episode, we were like, what's their celebrity name? Like, what's their celebrity couple name?
Yeah.
We were like, Lynn Steve Nickingham. And then I was like, should we include their middle names? And Caitlin's like, yeah, sure. What are they? And I was like, they're Adams and Lynn. And she was like, wait, whose middle name is whose? And I was like, how much do you think Lindsey Buckingham's parents hated him that they made his middle name Lynn?
But like they did the whole gender swap with their
They
first
did.
name. So it's an understandable question,
It
Ariana.
is.
Also,
But also,
I'm still pro Steve Lynn.
Steve Lynn. I like Steve Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve Lynn Nickingham, I think is Steve Lynn Laddams Nickingham. I think is good. Also, you know what's funny is that in his book about recording Rumors, their producer, I think his name is Ken Calais, he's like pretty well known in the Fleetwood Mac community. I don't know if you read this, but
No.
he's pretty well known in the Fleetwood Mac community for, this is alleged, like having major personal problems with both Stevie and Lindsey. He does not
Interesting.
like them, so a lot of people don't consider him a really reliable source. I mean, who in Fleetwood Mac is honestly a reliable source when it comes to
Yeah.
any of this stuff? Because
Yeah.
all of them have problems with each other. Like the only person no one had problems with was Christine McVie.
100%
Yeah.
Christine is genuinely Christine perfect, but like also they were all like on drugs. Like it's not like they were sober and anyone would have been reliable at relaying anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that about him.
But anyway, what he said in one of his books apparently that the first time he met Lindsey and Stevie, he walked over to Stevie and was like, "Lindsey, I love your music." And she goes, "I'm Stevie." But it's so
That's
true.
so good.
It's possible. There was this couple at my high school. One of them was a teacher and one of them was a counselor.
I was
like
afraid of where that was going.
And oh no. Really ruined our seventh grade. But no, the counselor was named Jake, and the teacher was named Jamie, but Jake was the woman and Jamie was the guy.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
I love that.
I love that too. Anyway, okay, so Lindsey Adams Buckingham. He was raised in Atherton, which, if you are from Northern California, you know is rich. It is a rich area. So Lindsey was starting out strong. His dad was an all-star football player at San Jose State University. So Lindsey and his brothers were encouraged to play sports, and they did all swim. But he was clearly more of an artiste. So he was like, nah, I'm going to be a picker, a grinner, a lover, and a sinner. I'm going to strum this here guitar. And he started playing when he was really, really young. The first guitar his parents got him was apparently a little Mickey Mouse guitar, which is super cute.
Oh.
Yeah. And a really interesting fact is that he doesn't read music. So he
That
just
is
plays.
just so interesting.
Yeah, he just plays by ear.
Yeah. That's like a certain type of musical talent to like not have classical training in that way, but to just like feel and understand music and how it should work, you know, like in terms of music theory.
Yeah. Then we have our beautiful goddess on Earth, Stevie Nicks. Stevie was born Stephanie Lynn Nicks on May 26th, 1948 at 3:42 a.m. Not 3:02 apparently, because originally I thought it was 3:02, and then
Well,
Caitlin was like, I found a more reliable source that said 3:42.
it was so interesting. Like when I was looking for what was accurate, I had checked in with you. You said that you found the 302 as being accurate. I see that.
There's a fruit
That's so
fly in my
bad.
wine.
Most places cite 302, but then I did find one source that I do feel is really reliable. It's astro.com. Like I
Mhm.
trust them. But they said that it was 342 and their source was like her actual birth certificate was presented. And so
So the jury's still out. Okay, yeah, so
anyway,
3:42, yeah. So Stevie was born Stephanie Lynn Nicks on May 26th, 1948 in Phoenix, Arizona, and she started singing at a very young age, specifically with her grandpa, who was also a musician. His name was Aaron Jess. He taught her how to sing duets, which is so cute. This little 4-year-old singing duets with him.
that's so precious.
So the name Stevie actually comes from her not being able to pronounce her own name when she was younger. She could only say TD, and so they called her Stevie. And she joined her first band called Changing Times when she was in high school in Arcadia, which, if you don't know, is a city in Los Angeles County, or it's near LA.
Oh, I didn't know she went to high school there.
Mhm.
I went to college like right next to Arcadia.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's so
cool.
wild. That's cool.
So her family moved around a lot because her dad worked for Greyhound. He was the vice president, and so they would travel to wherever he was needed at the time. And eventually she landed in Atherton for her senior year of high school. Do you see where this is going? Who else do we know was going to Atherton High School at the time? So Lindsey and Stevie met in high school. She was a year ahead of him. And this happened while Lindsey was performing at a Young Life Club meeting, which is essentially a Christian. Do you know what this is? Okay, because if you don't know, Caitlin has a background of she was raised Christian.
Yeah,
So.
when I read this, I like was just cracking up. It seems so out of place for either of them to have been involved in Young Life. I mean, what you're about to share, like it makes sense, but it's hilarious. Young Life is just like they like do like they put on events and camps and shit for like middle schoolers and high schoolers to teach them about God, and it's just like a Christian camp and place to go. Anyway, that's hilarious, like imagining them involved in something like Young Life.
I love the way you said it, and like teach them about God and stuff. I don't know, like God and
Like
things,
Thomas.
like Jesus, the resurrection, I guess. Stevie said it was just some ridiculous religious meeting that was a reason to get out of the house on a Wednesday night. So it's kind of like, it sounds like Young Life is basically the YMCA if the YMCA never went like non-religious.
That's pretty accurate. I feel like that's what they did. Like they just created a space for kids to go and like hang out and do something with their friends. And it was like Jesus themed, but it
Mhm.
was mostly like, let's give them a place to go and something to do. And then like while we got them there.
Yeah. He was performing California Dreamin', and she sat next to him and thought, my, what a gorgeous man. And in my notes, I wrote,
Same.
oh, I know.
Seriously.
Caitlin knows this, but I think he is the most beautiful man who's ever walked this earth.
Also, can you imagine being like, I don't know, like a 17-year-old and you're meeting like a 17, 18-year-old Lindsey Buckingham and he's singing California Dreamin'?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I can, and I have.
And I do
And
every
I
night.
do, and I will. And I will continue to, and no one can stop me. But anyway, so she sat down next to him and just started harmonizing with him. And she said in this one interview, she said, and I thought, well, I'll just go sit down with him and I'll harmonize with him. And if he doesn't like it, he can just hit me over the head with his guitar, and that'll be that. And her little way that she talks so fast, she's such a Gemini.
She's such a Gemini.
So she said after that, they didn't see each other for like 2 years. And then apparently he remembered her because they needed a new singer in his band that he was in at the time called Fritz. And so his drummer called her up and was like, hey, do you want to join us? And they did really well as a local band. They opened for Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix. And side note, Janis Joplin was Stevie Nicks' like idol. So this must have been incredible for her. And there's actually this one moment where when they got off the stage, Janis Joplin went over and screamed at them because they'd gone over time. Can you imagine? Like, to me, that's like if Stevie Nicks screamed at me for going over time. I'd be like, I'm taking it, I'm absorbing it, I'm putting this in my DNA.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm just gonna receive and soak up all the attention that you're giving me. And like, I'm so sorry, like, bless you, and thank you.
It's giving very much Regina George punched me in the face one time.
Yes, and it was awesome.
And it was awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Then they both went to San Jose State University together. and they dropped out to pursue music as a duo. And something really interesting is that while basically what happened was while they were in the band Fritz, producers or whatever, record labels were looking at their band for as a possible new talent, but they kept kind of picking out Stevie and Lindsey in particular. They were kind of like, hey, lose the baggage, lose the heavyweight. You two, you're where it's at. And because of that, that kind of like pushed Stevie and Lindsey together because they had just been friends before that. But then they, as Lindsey Buckingham says in an interview, he was like, "We were not involved romantically, and then we became involved romantically at that time." And from then on, they were Stevie and Lindsey as both Buckingham Nicks and as a couple. So they moved to LA, but before that, they recorded an album called Buckingham Nicks, and they actually recorded it in Lindsey's. This is just becoming a story about Fleetwood Mac.
What the people are here for.
That's true. That's what you guys are here for. But they actually recorded the album at night in in one of the coffee plants that Lindsey's dad ran.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because he was the president of a coffee company.
Oh.
So he ran this like local coffee plant in San Jose or Daly City. And so they did that at night and then they put it together like on a cassette or whatever and they brought it to Polydor Records and Polydor Records wanted it. And it was called Buckingham Nicks and it failed pretty badly. It flopped. And so they got dropped by their label and after that they struggled, you know, like they were both working on their music, but Lindsey was mostly the one pursuing music. He was a backing guitarist for the Everly Brothers at one point, which is really cool because the Everly Brothers are like their music, they're not talked about a lot, but artists at that time, like in their generation, covered Everly Brothers songs. Like Paul Simon did, or Simon and Garfunkel did, Linda Ronstadt did, but like their songs, like you'll hear other people sing them, like Bye Bye Love and When Will I Be Loved? Those are both Everly Brothers songs. Yeah, and so they were pretty influential. So it's cool that Lindsey was playing in their band or one of the brothers' bands. And then at that time, Stevie wasn't really doing anything musically besides writing music with Lindsey. Like they were working on their next album. So she was mostly the one who was supporting them financially. She would waitress during the day, and then she also cleaned houses. And at one point together, they lived in the house of a producer named Keith Olsen, who had helped them get their first album with Polydor Records. He helped them secure Buckingham Nicks, basically. This is important to know because that producer, Keith Olsen, played one of their songs for a one Mick Fleetwood, who was hanging out at the recording studio in LA. And he was like, hey, 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 who is that guitarist on that track that you randomly played me? Because Keith Olsen was literally just trying to show him like the sound system of the studio. And I think he was also just saying like, oh, here's some of the music that we make. And Bob Welch had left the band very, very suddenly. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So they needed a new guitar. Ist.
He probably took his guitar too.
That's a really good point. So he found out that the guitarist was Lindsey, and Lindsey probably had his own guitar to replace the one that he lost. So he invited him to join the band, and Lindsey was like, okay, let me think about it. I have to check to see if it's okay with my girlfriend. And then when he decided that he wanted to join, he was like, you have to let Stevie come too. Like, we're a package deal. We are one. And Mick Fleetwood, and I think it was actually John McVie, said when they arrived and they started working together, it was very obvious that Stevie and Lindsey were like attached at the hip, like glued to one another. They were absolutely a unit, like in this like insular relationship with each other, which like to a certain degree worked. And they had incredible creative chemistry. Like it did work in some ways, and it really did not in some others. I'd say in most other ways it didn't work. But yeah, so in 1974, Stevie said it was the last day of 1974. They got that call. They joined Fleetwood Mac. And then they recorded and released their self-titled album, Fleetwood Mac, in 1975. And that was the beginning of their worldwide success. Like things really, really took off. And what's really interesting is that some of the songs that are on, I mean, I guess it's not that surprising, but some of the songs that are on Fleetwood Mac were supposed to be on Lindsey and Stevie's next album. And what I think is really cool about this story, I actually made a reel about this. What I think is so cool about this story is it shows you like all the different ways that the universe can support you and what it is you want. Like if you really believe you're meant for something, you really want something, you got to align with it and just keep going and, and trust that the universe can
Yeah.
bring it to you in some way, because what were all the things that had to happen for them to
It's
line up?
it's pretty nuts. And then also like they think that they're getting like a big break when they record Buckingham Nicks and it gets picked up and then it fails and it's like so many people would have given up after that or just been
Hmm.
like okay then like I guess I'm not supposed to be doing music in this way, but they just knew like no, that's what we're supposed to do and
Yeah.
that's what we're here for.
Also, if the album had gone well, if it had sold well, they would have stayed on Polydor, they would have stayed Buckingham Nicks. And when Mick Fleetwood reached out to Lindsey, he probably would have been like,
No.
no, I'm not interested. I'm doing fine on my own, because they thought that was the path to success. But it turns
Yeah.
out there are probably a million paths to success. Like the universe is always setting it up for you. Okay, I'm getting off on my own track, but I just believe
It's
this.
a
I
good point
believe
though. It's such a
release the
good
how.
point. And like I mean, they're so iconic. They're
They
like
are.
two of the most iconic musicians, songwriters, couples like of all time.
Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, so many points where they could have decided not to keep doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
So many different parts of the path. I mean, think
Yeah.
about too, like when they were in the Bay, they like experienced quite a bit of success with that band as far as like
Hmm.
opening up for Jimi Hendrix and all these people.
Insane.
It is insane. And then if you look at their trajectory, like it would have been easy for them to have thought while they were going through it that like things were going worse, like they were on this
Hmm.
upward trajectory and then it was like kind of going down. But
Yeah.
like you said, like it was all conspiring for them to be like at this exact point in time.
Hmm. I wonder if Stevie Nicks looks back in time at like cleaning houses and she's like, I almost gave up. Because she said
Can you
that if their
imagine?
next album didn't do well, if she said, first off, if we don't get a next album out and if it doesn't do well, then I think I'm just gonna go back to school. So she's like, I honestly don't want to do this anymore. She's like, I don't want to be broke anymore. Like, we can't afford
Yeah.
anything. It
Yeah.
sucks. What's interesting too is, Caitlin, we were talking about this earlier. Lindsey and Stevie were already kind of having problems before
Oh
they
yeah.
joined Fleetwood Mac. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was already rocky, and we are going to go into why this happened. But to like kind of wrap up the story a little bit, if you don't know what happened with Fleetwood Mac, in short, it exploded. All of the, like, all at once, everybody was going through a relationship breakup in 1976 to 1977. Stevie and Lindsey were like, we are done. Well, Stevie said, we are done.
Also like got back together and kept breaking up and like
Okay, allegedly, but we don't know if we can trust Ken Calais. We've spoken about this.
other people said that too.
Really?
Christine was like, oh yeah, they were absolutely like hooking up for a while after that. Like
Oh,
they were
wow.
always kind of like on and off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay.
It's very
If
interesting.
that, I trust Christine. I would trust
Oh,
Christine McVie with
I
my
trust
life.
Christine. Same.
I don't know her. I've never met her.
Same.
And I never will, because unfortunately she's passed away, the songbird. But
Oh,
it's really sad. It really affected everybody in the band, because
yeah.
she was the glue. They called her the glue that held the band together, and she
Yeah.
really was, because she was the only one who wasn't fucking crazy. Yeah, but she and John also got divorced, almost entirely because of John's alcoholism.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, he's clean now, I'm pretty sure,
yeah.
but he was just so gone. Like, he drank so much, and it was a problem. And so Christine was like, I can't do this. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
to do this. And actually, I don't know if it was like by the time they, like, Lindsey and Stevie got in, that it was like kind of the same situation as them, that she already was like, I don't want to do this. She did have an affair with their lighting producer, or their lighting coordinator, and that's what Love You Make Loving Fun is about, that song.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and what's so funny, it's so funny. I never forgot this. I have never forgotten this since the first time I saw the Don't Stop documentary. But they're talking about how they would look around the room and be like, who's that song about? For rumors, because they all knew it was like about someone else in the band.
Yeah.
And it's like, obviously, when Lindsey writes a song, it's about Stevie. When Stevie writes a song, it's about Lindsey. But like, who is Christine writing this song about? Because John's like, it's not me. And he's like, and you look back on some of those lyrics and you go, huh. Wow, okay. Because she's literally talking about the guy she's having an affair with, and he was
And
like, didn't see it at the time.
and then imagine like having your husband perform that. You're like, here's the song.
Oh, we'll get to them performing the lyrics they don't want to perform. Anyway, and so they really quickly, they were together until 1987 when Lindsey Buckingham was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to leave. And it was like on the night of their Tango in the Night tour, unfortunately, which we'll also get to.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we're going to get to the
Oh
Tango in the
yeah.
Night incident. If you think we're not talking about the Tango in the Night incident, you're
You do not
mistaken.
know us.
You don't know us at all. Listen, you do not know me. You definitely don't know Caitlin.
You know what's interesting too is that Christine said, and maybe I'm sure we'll also like kind of touch base about this later, but you're talking about like when Lindsay left and like they're being off and on and stuff. She said that she felt like it was in the 80s that Lindsay was like officially done with Stevie because Stevie was like what Christine said was like on tranquilizers. Like she was like, yeah. So
Yeah.
she was like, that's when like Lindsay and Stevie really separated.
Yeah, I remember that. I from the documentary, it's like kind of alluded to, but basically what happened was that I mean, we mentioned this before, but all of them loved cocaine.
Oh yeah.
And as far as we know, Stevie's the only one who went to rehab. He
And
was
Lindsay
pretty
visited her there.
he did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
know.
really sweet.
Yeah.
But you'll see why we're like, that's sweet, but also fuck Lindsey Buckingham. You'll see. You will see. Yeah, so she had a cocaine addiction and she had a dime-sized hole in her septum or in her
Crazy.
nose. From all the cocaine she was taking. And her doctor was like, your nose is gonna for sure collapse and you're gonna have like an aneurysm or like a stroke or whatever. Like
Yeah.
you need to stop. And so she checked into Betty Ford, she got clean, and they put her on Klonopin, which is also addictive. So like literally what the fuck?
Why are you giving an addict something else? That's
Yeah, it's oh my God, the 80s.
Yeah.
We can't speak for the 80s. It's just like a black hole. No one even
I mean, we weren't there, but
we weren't there. But like I'm pretty from what I've heard from people, it's like if you were in the 80s, you don't remember it. My mom doesn't remember the 80s. Well, she said it's because she had kids and she wasn't paying attention to anything. But like there'll be a song from the 80s that comes on, and I'm like, oh mom, isn't this song great? She's like, what is this? I'm like, what are you fucking
you were there.
this is Tainted Love. How do you not know this song? I guarantee you it was on the radio all the time.
That's so funny.
In your little minivan. But yeah, and so yeah, he was kind of like she's not there. She's not present.
Yeah.
She would show up late to recording sessions and things. And so I think that he was like, okay, I'm kind of out of this. And he was having his own shit. He's always been going through his own stuff. And then after that, so after 1987, they got back together in the 90s when Bill Clinton, of all people, was using Don't Stop as his campaign song. And so they performed together.
So funny. It's a great
good.
song.
It's a
And I
great
actually
song.
get that as a campaign song.
For sure.
Yeah. That's so funny.
Yeah, and also, you know what's I was thinking about this today because I've always looked at Don't Stop on the Rumors album like, what the fuck is this corny ass song doing on my album? Like, this song has dreams.
On my
This
album.
has Go Your Own Way. This has Make Love and Fun. Like, it's such a good album, and Don't Stop is like so corny. And today I was like, you know what? That was probably like the band's lifeline song because all of them, Stevie at one point was saying like, we always put the band in front of ourselves because as bad as things got, even if we didn't want to be in relationships with each other, no one didn't want to be in the band.
Yeah.
So I look at Don't Stop now from a different angle where I'm like, this is probably their like, okay, we got this. We got to keep going, right?
That was like their anthem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they did stuff on and off. Then Lindsey was kicked out of Fleetwood Mac for good, and here we are. All right, I've talked a lot.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with
astrology? Let's do it.
I'm so excited. We didn't read each other's notes.
No, our notes are a surprise for each other. But I feel like we'll probably be sharing a handful of the same things.
Okay.
So I want to talk about both of things in both of their charts separately and then how they interact together, which is really interesting. But before we get into it, I want to just like share how I label my notes.
I was gonna show it when the time came, but I'd love people to see this right now.
So when it comes to Stevie, I mean, you can tell I was like really excited.
Really excited.
We're getting into Stevie. And then when it came to
Gemini prejudice.
when it came to Lindsay, this is what he got. He got a little, it's like not even a full frown.
Not even
like
a because you have to put energy into frowning.
Yeah, and I just don't even have that towards him. That's exactly what it is. And like a little thumbs down. Like just like do better. Just do better. Okay, so Stevie, I mean, she just like was so made for everything that she did. It also doesn't surprise me that she was the one that was like making the money, working the jobs while Lindsay's like doing who the fuck knows what and making music only.
Picking out his guitar.
Yeah. And then also that she was the one that was like, if this isn't working, like I'm gonna go back to school. So she has a Capricorn moon. So she's like extremely practical. She's like so down to earth and grounded and also able to see like like what it is that she needs to do to get to her goal, right? Like
Mhm.
there's just this ability to naturally be like, okay, I'm going to work hard and invest my time and energy in this specific direction where I see long-term benefits are within my reach if I just like put in the effort.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, it's no wonder she was the one that's like, no, I'm gonna
Yeah.
fucking work. Like, we need to make some money. And also, like, is this not working? Because this needs to work. Her moon's also in the ninth house. So this is like really connecting to the sense of like idealism, philosophy, finding a lot of comfort through like more esoteric things, spirituality. It gives such like a fairy vibe, like symbolism running
Mhm.
strong. It's so Stevie. There's also something that happens with people with moon in the ninth house where they tend to do a lot of travel. Like they really appreciate foreign countries, learning from different perspectives around the world and like really taking that in. And so like her touring for so long with Fleetwood Mac and as an artist just is so perfect. It was also exactly, not exactly, it's 5 degrees away from her midheaven. So it's still a really close conjunction to her midheaven. And when this happens, when a person has their moon so close to their midheaven, a person, me, is fine. There is such a strong inclination that like your purpose and what it is that you want to do with your life and your career and your work is so connected to like your emotional center and your heart and like what you
Mhm.
feel moved by. It's not really this I like you know how for some people they'll like have a 9 to 5 that they don't really care about, but it gives them like the freedom or the money or whatever to do what they actually like. That like
Mhm.
doesn't exist for moon midheaven people. It's
Mhm.
like no, what I'm doing has to really align with like what I feel and what I am driven to do and how I'm driven to express and like what matters a lot to me. There's also something that comes from this, which is like emotional comfort, like the sense of being internally safe and okay can be from being successful and like having security within your profession. And so we so see that in her, I think,
Yeah.
like so clearly. Also make it in the ninth house. Like
Yeah.
there's just like this like idealism that's really grounded and practical too, that runs strong. But she has so much Neptune stuff going on. So her moon is square to
Mhm.
Neptune. And this brings a different sense of like idealism running through things, kind of like fantasy and like getting lost in like what you think sounds spiritual and connective and like
Mhm.
poetic. But this also is an aspect for a lot of people that indicates like having so much creative ability. Like songwriting is huge for people with like moon Neptune stuff going on because it's this sense of like how I interpret and make sense of my inner world isn't something that can be done just linearly or practically. I mean, it's Neptune. It's like
Mhm.
fantasy and like not at all connected to what is practical and grounded. So there's an interesting dynamic within that. Something else with Moon and Neptune people, and we'll see this with her Venus as well, but with either of these connection points is that in relationships, people typically tend to go for something that feels really like mystical and exciting and
Mystical,
like,
magical.
yes, mystical,
Moonbeam and
magical.
moonbeam ice cream.
Yeah,
Taking off
yes.
your pleats.
Wanting to be in a relationship that feels like soulmate level. And so her and
Mm.
Lindsey creating music together, doing these artistic things together, like being in the creative energy would just feel so fucking good.
Mhm.
But what also happens with Moon Neptune people, like there is this such a deep level of fantasy that exists for them in this that like they often don't see the reality of what might not be compatible within a relationship because they're so involved in just like the ideal of what that could be and like the sense of like soulmate connection.
She said she loves fairy tales. She loves
Yes.
like dreaminess, and it's pretty obvious if you just look at her songwriting and her performances and her aesthetic.
Oh,
But she seems so grounded. Like I remember one
yes.
time she was quoted about like it was the last tour that she had with Lindsey Buckingham, and he was like making the speech about like, oh, we're all so happy to be together, and she was like, and I'm over here rolling my eyes. Okay, Lindsey, come back down to earth and remember that like we have fucking problems.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's not all airy
It's
fairy.
not all good.
Yeah.
Lindsay also has a lot of Neptune stuff going on.
Interesting. That makes
Yeah,
sense for
so it
him.
really makes sense. And he doesn't really have much earth either. Like Stevie does have a lot of the groundedness. She's also, we'll get into this, she's a Taurus rising. She has Mars and Virgo. Like she has this grounded energy to her, which I
Hmm.
think like is probably a saving grace for her. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like I cannot imagine
Mhm.
without that
Mhm.
groundedness and like that sense of what's actually happening. But it is like she doesn't get there immediately. Like she still has like this fogginess that's around some of those things where she kind of has to like learn what's not working. Relatable. But something else I wrote, like you mentioned, just kind of like the fairiness, the witchiness, like this, I mean, moon, Neptune stuff, big, like angel, fairy, esoteric, like witchy, spiritual vibes, 110%. I mentioned she's a Taurus rising. This was interesting because if we use that other birth time, she's an Aries rising. And I saw that chart and I was like, something doesn't feel right about that to me.
That's
And so
funny because
then,
I saw that chart too, and I
yeah.
was like, that makes sense to me. But maybe it's because she just I actually thought she was an Aries before I found out she
Oh,
was a Gemini.
interesting.
But I'm not the astrology expert here. That's
Yeah.
why we have Caitlin.
She's such a Gemini. But her Taurus rising is something that like allows her to be grounded, but it means that she's ruled by Venus and not Mars. And that's
Mhm.
like the biggest thing that I see in her within the
Mhm.
Taurus versus Aries rising. I'm like, yeah, she's so a Taurus rising. Being ruled by Venus, like you're just naturally received by others in a positive way. Generally, it
Mhm.
depends on what Venus is doing in your chart, but she has a very well placed Venus in her chart.
Mhm.
And so there's just this sense of like being effortlessly like graceful and beautiful, just like naturally, like not needing to do anything to be perceived in that way. She just
Mhm.
like that's her embodiment of herself and in a very fairy like way. So she is ruled by Venus. She has Venus in her third house, and the third house is all about our communication. Venus being her ruling planet, like this is the point of her chart that is most, this is the planet that is representing her the most and is most like her.
Yeah.
And so having Venus in her third house, how it is that she's expressing and how she is seeking to relate to people and to connect with people is through her words, through language, through communication. But it's Venus in Cancer, it's a water sign. So it's
Mhm.
not like I'm just going to write down and like publish what I'm thinking. It's like done in this really like poetic, emotional, artistic way. So there's another layer of what's happening within that and like just her work and what it is that she's always been drawn to. And it's a 0 degree orb, which is like the closest that that aspect can get. There's like no distance between them. And so I said it's like a really strong influence. So she'll be drawn again towards relationships that feel like really expansive, feel destined, artistic, soulful, but kind of unrealistic in some ways. Like there's
Also,
this,
Caitlin has destined in all caps.
oh my God. It's
Destined.
the way that she, I mean, just the second reiteration of this with like
Mhm.
her moon and her Venus, like that is
Yeah.
like the biggest thing for her. So no wonder even like recently, like within the last few years in interviews, she's talking about how she and Lindsey have never been able to actually get over each other.
So insane.
Yeah, it's like, no, they can't because they feel like there's always this tie between them and there's always this
Mhm.
connection, and there is for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they
Okay.
like can't necessarily put aside it's not like they don't have the ability to be like actually that doesn't function as a relationship so I'm moving forward. They're like no,
Yeah.
there's always this connection that we have
Yeah.
and that will always be there. It's very like mystical, but there's another element of this which is reiterating again this challenge of like hypersensitivity to others, being so tuned into like the emotional landscape and movement that you can kind of lose yourself within that. And so sometimes with these placements, like people do get lost.
Mm.
And they can be a little bit delusional about their relationship because they're prioritizing that thing and they feel like it's like what is meant to be instead of being like, okay, no, this like doesn't function well. Like
Yeah.
it's dysfunctional.
Oh my God, this makes
Um,
so much sense that there are certain people like that. I have a side note. Okay.
yeah,
Side note. I am very much not one of these people.
I
I'm
know.
like, there are a lot of fucking people out there. I didn't know you before we dated. I don't have to know you after we dated. I know so many people who were like, they were the one. I'll never find anyone like them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
Literally
we're
what
all as one. Literally, we're all gonna merge in the afterlife. We are technically merged now, and separation is an illusion. So this person is not the only iteration of you. There is a totally other person, and he's really hot. Go find him, you know? And so I've just never really been able to see it in that same way. But I think it's because I haven't, one, I have not had a relationship like this. And two, my chart isn't really built like that.
no,
So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
no.
I should have a little more compassion.
I felt the same way when I was learning about this part of relationship astrology and just being like, oh, okay, like there are people who just function that way because I'm so much more like you, where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, like whatever. And
Yeah.
there are other people out there. And yeah, we're all one anyway. It's not like it means anything to be not connected to this person
Yeah.
anymore.
Not like relationships
Why are
actually
you
mean
crying?
anything.
Yeah.
Why are you crying? Rub some dirt on it.
And then her Venus is also trine her south node. And so it's pretty literal that like destiny and her sense of destiny plays a role in her key relationship. So there's a couple elements of this. One is the romantic part, one is just overall her connections and like what comes to her. As far as like romantic stuff, the South Node is like where we come from and what it is that we have already mastered and learned. It's like I've heard an astrologer call it the memory jug of the soul, which I just like love. It's like what's already familiar and things that feel very destined in that Neptunian way.
Wait,
So
yeah, okay. Are you gonna go on about this?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, I was just gonna say because the South Node is the past, and I'm wondering like how much then, obviously only Stevie and Lindsey could tell us this, but how much of that connection is like I've just known you very well, like
Yes.
you are where I come from,
Yes.
because they met really young.
And that's really comfortable for them.
Yeah.
100%. That's such a great point. And that's exactly where I was going to go with it as far as the two of them. Like it's just that sense of deep familiarity and comfortability. Yeah, that being something that feels so like priority, but also is not necessarily like where is best to put your energy and attention because it's not what you're growing towards, it's where you come from. Another element of that is that especially relationships that are affected by the South Node, it can be that sense of like, oh, we like have to be together because there's something that still needs to be worked out, but then we need to separate because we're like getting rid of that pattern or we're like kind of clearing whatever that connection thing is. I feel like that's so true with her and Lindsey. As far as like just other connections and people though, having your Venus trine the South Node in any way, like in any area, there's this sense of destiny playing a role in the people that she meets and like seeing her and supporting her and giving her opportunities that are going to get her ultimately to where she's going, especially around creative and artistic pursuits because it's her Venus. Yeah, it's really beautiful. And it makes a lot of sense as far as like their trajectory with their work and their musicianship. And I'm using their because especially during that point when they're being like discovered, it was combined, like they weren't separate, you know?
No.
Another thing that I wrote about this is that it really gives like the searching for my twin flame and
I saw
like
that.
ending up in a healthy relationship kind of energy. An
Or
unhealthy
yeah. I read that and I was like laughing. I was cracking up. I was really hoping you were gonna say that out loud.
Yeah.
I have so many things to say about twin flame relationships that I'm not gonna get into because I'm like 1.5 glasses of wine deep and we'd go on.
And there's just also like not even the time for it because like, oh my God, where do we begin? But I feel like all of the Neptune stuff too is so that like that sense of like looking for my twin flame, like finding this deep connection, and anyone from the outside is like, girl, you need to like run. Like this is not good for you, you know? You mentioned she's a Gemini. She's such a fucking Gemini.
It really is. Just listen to her talk and you're like, oh man, that lady's a Gemini.
Oh yeah. She also has Mercury in Gemini. So yeah, like literally how she talks, like very fucking fast. But one thing that I want to say about her Gemini placements in general are known for being like very good with their words and communicating. So many rappers are Geminis. Like it's just so common that people who you see who have like this masterful and kind of artistic usage of language, especially vocally, have some kind of Gemini placements.
Kanye is a Gemini.
Kanye is a Gemini. Yeah. Kendrick is a Gemini. Tupac, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Like so many of them. But her sun in Gemini is in her second house. And so this is a really cool placement, I say. Sun in Gemini living in the second house.
With zero bias or prejudice.
No bias. It's like such an awesome placement. But I feel like I loved seeing this through the lens of Stevie Nicks' career and life, because a big thing with this is like when the sun's in your second house, like your self-expression, your identity, the things that bring you vitality, make you come alive, that people see you for, is literally what makes you money. And is like what brings in resource. The second house is our possessions and our resources and like the money we have in the bank. Yeah. And so with your sun there, yeah, it's like the expression of you. And then it's in Gemini, it's like her literal vocal expression is like what it is that brings her the stability that her moon in Capricorn is looking for. Like it was never going to come from her going back to school and doing something else.
No, that was not going to happen.
No, that was not going to happen. It was not supposed to happen. It needed to come through her self-expression and like the way that that moves through her literally and and vocally. The other thing I want to mention about her before we move on to Lindsey is that she has her South Node in her 7th house. Her South Node is also in Scorpio.
Oh.
Yeah. She also has her Chiron hanging out there.
Oh no.
So that's where like her woundedness is. That's where she like, I mean, it depends on like how you're interacting with Chiron, right? So like for background, Chiron it's the wounded healer. It shows us where our wounds are and that things that we've experienced early on in our lives that create wounds for us, but also things that we've just come into this lifetime with feeling a little bit wounded within. And some people just stay at that level where they just have the wounding. Eventually some people will start working with that and like moving through and healing those pieces. And then the like quote unquote highest, like the 3rd level of Chiron is when you have done so much of the work that you can then like walk other people through it. But it's completely voluntary, right? Like it just is about your free will. Like, what do you do with the wounds that you carry? Is it something that you just like put away and try not to look at? How are you engaging with them? So it's interesting that this is like where that is showing up for her in the wound of relationship and the house of relationships, and that it's so connected to her South Node because karmically there's so many themes about being so inclined towards relationships and like being so inclined towards people that you have that like kismet soulmate level relationship with, but in reality probably not supportive overall of growth. But depending on how you work with that, like there's the potential for a lot of healing to happen within that, and in the space of relationships, but like that depends on the reality of the two people and how they're coming together.
Imagine how many people have used her Chiron in Scorpio in the 7th house, the music she's made through that to get themselves through a breakup.
Yes.
How
Oh
many
my
people
God,
have
what a
listened
good
to
point.
Dreams while they're like
Yes.
crying about the person they think is
Oh
their
my God.
soulmate leaving
Yeah,
them?
landslide. Yeah.
It's like, oh, landslide.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, Silver Springs.
Oh
Don't tell
God.
me you've never cried to Silver Springs.
Post breakup.
I post breakup.
Yeah.
I've cried to Silver Springs. Don't tell anyone I tell you this, but I've cried to Silver Springs, imagining that I was Stevie Nicks, thinking about Lindsey Buckingham. And I was like, of course it hurts. I'm like, how did she even sing this song without crying on stage?
Literally, her Capricorn moon.
Oh yeah,
That's
just like keep it
that
together.
shit together. Yeah, exactly.
Pack that heated.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Lindsey.
Ugh, Lindsey.
So Lindsey's a Leo rising. No surprises here.
I was literally thinking that before I even read your note.
Yeah, no surprises here. Just like, let me be seen, let me be recognized. I will be recognized. You will see me for my talents.
Yeah.
And then in his 1st house, he also has Mars in Leo, and it's like right on top of Pluto. And so
wait, so we have a lot in common with our charts. No wonder I she's so hot. My Mars is conjunct Pluto, and literally my computer is standing on top of a few books to give an aesthetic appeal. But otherwise
to get the right angle.
To get the right angle. I know my angles, but one of them is Parker's Astrology. And I'm pretty sure it's through Parker's Astrology that it says that, actually, it could be something else, but it said that Mars conjunct Pluto, like, belies a very aggressive and violent temper. Like, I read once, like, these people have the temperaments of serial killers. And I was like, I should kick their asses for saying that.
But I remember him talking to me about that and being like, oh my God, Caitlin, is this true? And I'm like, well, I don't think you're a serial killer, but
I think you have the potential to be one.
And I will say most serial killers, as like a side note, have been mutable signs. They've been either a Gemini, Pisces, or Sag, or Virgo. So yeah, he is a Leo rising with the Leo Mars conjunct to Pluto. And this all being in his 1st house, like, makes it so much more personal because your 1st house is you and like your physical body and like how you identify and your self-expression. And so the Leo Mars too is something that so deeply just wants to be recognized. It's like my drive and my willpower and everything that I'm doing is because I'm a natural leader, and you will see me as such, and you will recognize me, and you will see my authority.
Yeah.
And then the Pluto really emphasizes that sense of like authority. He definitely has like an issue with authority, was my thought when I was looking at this. I was like, oh, like what was his experience of that like when he was younger? Like, and
he's a manifestor energy type.
That's so true.
You know? So
I see so much of that through his Leo stuff. And something else that I wrote down for this is like, volcanic temper, like can be so aggressive and just like so domineering and like need to just like need to fucking self-assert. Like
Hmm.
it's especially if you're like not a self-aware person of like, oh, my ego is like wanting to move in this way. It's like, no, I like need to be the prime person that's within this. I like need to assert what it is that I need. And I know we'll get into what happened.
I love how balanced of a take you're taking. We didn't tell you. We didn't have the thumbs down for
I
Lindsay
already
before
told
she
you.
went into this.
What I also want to say is that like I have so much love for Lindsey
Me
Buckingham.
too. Yeah.
And I just wish the best for him. And I also just see, especially when he was younger, like how chaotic these things came through him. And I just look at that and I'm like, wow, he like had a lot of shit he needed to work through. And I mean, I don't know if he has at this point.
He's
I
in
hope he
therapy.
has.
He
He's been
talks
to
about it
therapy.
at his concerts, apparently.
Yeah, and I feel like he's gotten a little bit more I don't know that gentle is the right word, but I do feel like these things have chilled out a lot more.
Mhm.
But we're like we see them really loudly when he was younger, especially like kicking Stevie on stage and like just doing all these really like
He did
aggressive.
that when he was like in his, he did that later.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yikes. Anyway, there's just this really strong need he has to like express his personal creativity and then like receive recognition for that. I
Mm.
also want to say like this sense of needing to receive recognition, like this is not a bad thing. So many celebrities have Leo placements, especially like a Leo rising. There's just this sense of like they know that who they are is special and unique.
Yeah.
But other people recognize that too and like love that and like
Hmm.
want to watch them and observe them and like celebrate them. Like it's really an exciting kind of placement. It makes
Hmm.
someone really like confident and charismatic. They're really like
Yeah.
passionate, they're enthusiastic, and they're really easily able to inspire others by what it is that they're excited about.
That's so true for him.
So true.
Hella true for him. I mean, I
Absolutely.
love watching Lindsey Buckingham perform.
Oh my God, you can just like so feel his whole soul being in it and
Yeah.
like how you feel his passion within it. You feel like how deeply it's his purpose in so many ways. And it
Hmm.
is so like inspiring to see. This also makes someone like super independent. We'll get into his moon later, but he definitely has this theme of independence that is strong. His Mars is also sextile to Neptune. So, like, the way in which he wants to engage and like move at his drive, his will, is through this lens that is very creative and artistic and musical. And so, Leo is classically a sign that is very like athletic, almost
Hmm.
like meathead energy. But this like Neptune in there, like it makes so much sense that his dad like promoted like athletics and he was like, I'm gonna go make some music.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool for you, but like I'm gonna be moving over here.
But I did it.
And like I know what I want.
Yeah.
It's also his Mars is trine his North Node, and there's a need to be confident in order to grow in life. So his rising being in Leo is ruled by the sun. So his sun is his like his point in his chart that is most about himself personally. While his Mars plays like a huge role in like how he operates and like the way in which that comes through, the sun is so much more personal to him,
Hmm.
which he has in Libra. And it's in
Hmm.
his third house and it's conjunct to Mercury. So we have similar themes between him and Stevie, where she has her Venus in her third house, he has his sun here, and so there is still this sense of like self-expression and vitality and like how I am expressing and what I am saying, and the communication around that being so important. And then it's in Libra, it's this sign that's ruled by Venus. It's like doing this in a way that's pleasurable and creative and like feels good and that's like received well by others. So really big musical songwriting, singing energy that's through there. Another thing with it having the sun in Libra, even though he's so independent, relationships and partnerships are still so big for him and like really important. And there's kind of an interesting conflict almost between them where he is so independent and assertive and will go after what he wants, but then there's always this kind of like tie back to how is this affecting my partnerships and like how am I working within partnership. And so something that we see like throughout their whole lives is that even when they were not together, like they were always making music together.
Hmm.
They always like they say too that like they're at their best musically when they're with each other, just like that sense of partnership being such a grounding force as far as how his self-expression is even able to come out, that like he can do these things independently, but it just like doesn't reach the same connection point or like
Hmm.
level or like heartfelt like, I don't know, like it doesn't evoke the same things from the heart
Mhm.
for him, for her, and for anybody like listening is so real. Like that's such a really powerful thing for him.
Yeah, he's a fantastic solo artist, and so is Stevie Nicks. Obviously, like both of them.
Of
I
course.
actually think Lindsey Buckingham is a really underrated solo artist. But it's true. It's so different. And like everybody who knows Lindsey, especially like closely on a personal level and also who has worked with him musically, says like he's a really like rough guy when it comes to music. Like
Hmm.
Stevie's very ethereal, Lindsey is like angry and rough.
Yeah,
And so
of
you
course.
get that from his music. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. You get that from his music and it's good, but it's not like when I hear like go insane, it's not the same thing as go your own way.
No.
Like it does feel like there's more like heart behind it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's from different eras in his life, but whatever.
Yeah, it feels like there's more hard edges with the music that he's creating on his own. I think
Hmm.
that's because of how he relates to himself in a lot
Yeah.
of ways, but also like it's that sense of all of that intensity like coming through versus when it's kind of tempered by the energy of another person, especially with Stevie being so like receptive, Venusian, like ethereal. They're kind of a perfect complement in some ways, where he is so Martian
Yeah.
and she's so
Oh
Venusian.
my God. Oh, polarity.
Polarity and chemistry. Holy
Yeah.
shit. Another thing for him with his Mercury being right next to his sun, his Mercury is natally retrograde.
Hmm.
And so this is something that we see a lot in people who are artists because there's this sense of like your literal voice and the way that you communicate doesn't feel like it lands and makes sense when it's just straightforward in relationship to other people. So there's kind of this sense of like needing to seek other avenues to communicate, but then also just naturally being more introspective about what it is that you want to say. And a lot of times for people that comes out within art, within music, songwriting, poetry, like non-linear fashions of communicating ideas, and especially ideas of self with where his sun is placed right here. And then Neptune's also right there. So he has
Oh my
Neptune conjunct to
God.
his Mercury and his sun. Yeah. So they both have so much Neptune stuff going on.
What a
Um,
complex guy.
a
I
hundred
mean,
percent.
everyone's complex. Yeah, it's just that's insane.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, you're totally right about that. And so there's just this like different depth that's brought there. There's this different like sensitivity to things and to others and to even himself internally. A big thing with Neptune too is again like that sense of like idealism and that connection to what feels destined, what feels soulful, and being tuned in to like the mystical, and then also being so tuned into the creative. Like a big keyword within this with Sun Neptune stuff is like in Mercury is like being a creative channel, like
Yeah.
literally with your voice that coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Escapism can be something that comes up with heavy Neptune stuff. Again, like being kind of unclear about your own identity in some way because Neptune is really foggy. It like makes things not feel distinct, which gives us this sense and this ability to be really engaged with like the mystical and the spiritual and the creative. But it can also, especially with the connection to the sun, just be kind of harder, and the sun in Libra, like in its detriment. It can be
Mm,
harder to understand and like feel your own individuality and who you are, which is such an interesting combination for him because the rest of his chart is like about being an individual and being
yeah.
independent and how he's asserting that and seen in that. And so to me, I look at this and I feel like there's kind of this dynamic between these things and that he doesn't always know himself. It's like challenging and it's something that he seeks to find, especially through his music and his creativity
Mm.
with the Neptune stuff there. But his sense of self is a little bit more out of touch to him personally, even though like it comes through in him feeling like he really needs to assert his sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
especially around others, and to like be seen in a certain way, with all of that Leo. And then finally, his sun and all of this Neptune Mercury stuff is sextile to his ascendant. And this isn't an aspect that I would usually focus on in someone's chart, but for him, the sun especially is like pretty much exactly sextile his ascendant. And it's just so like accurate, where his path to self-discovery and understanding himself is through his ability to shine and what it is that he does, to be recognized for it, the sense of vitality that he gets to it. It's all linked to his ability to express himself. So that sense of like murkiness around self-identity is explored and comes to him through how his art comes through and like how he's seen and how he's received by other people. He has his Venus in Scorpio. And then let's kind of do like a little circular loop here, because if we're looking at rulerships and we're looking at, it's called the final dispositor. And there's sometimes just one in a person's chart. Sometimes though there's multiple and someone doesn't have just like a final dispositor, but it's kind of looking at like what planet is in control of actually like all of the planets within someone's chart. And so if you look at his sun's in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So his sun is ruled by Venus in his chart. And then Venus is in Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars. So his Venus is ruled by Mars. So Mars becomes a final dispositor for both his Venus and his sun.
Wait, that's the case for me.
Really? That Mars is?
Well, yeah. I mean, because my sun is in Libra.
Oh yeah.
My Libra is in, or my Venus is in Scorpio.
Yeah.
And Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So then my final dispositors.
What do you have Mars in again?
Scorpio.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's a sign of rulership.
I'm
so
really Scorpionic.
Yeah, you are. Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, you're totally right.
I am Lindsey Buckingham. Watch out, world.
Venus and Scorpio like so seeks this intensity and depth within relationships, like this full sense of like commitment and intimacy that's shared. There's also a protectiveness around it. Like not everybody gets to experience that level of depth with a person with Venus and Scorpio. It's only like the chosen few. But a sense of possessiveness can come up a lot for Venus and Scorpio people. In some ways that's like really romantic, just like the idea of like, I am yours and you are mine. But then also with like Pluto stuff getting in there, it can be like genuinely really possessive and kind of like dominating, and this sense of like ownership in some ways. He's so fascinating. And I so see why they loved each other so deeply too, because Stevie, as a Venusian, like also really inclined towards, again, the sense of polarity, like someone who's so Martian and Plutonian and like, especially with a Venus or a Taurus rising, like there's this wanting to be claimed by somebody else. Like the person that you love, like you want them to be scorpionic and be like, yeah, you're mine.
They're sister signs.
And you're
it
like,
makes sense. They complement each
yours.
other.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. But then also there's like that power dynamic that's at play that they're in with each other that doesn't feel as good.
Rarely does.
Rarely does.
We'll talk about that in the human design section, I promise you.
So he has his moon in Aquarius. It's in his 7th house. So there is a reiteration of kind of some of those Sun Libra themes where like partnership and relationships feel really important to him. And for him having his moon there, there's a sense of like understanding my internal world and myself emotionally in some ways only happens through relationships and partnerships and how I learn who I am within that space. Having your moon in Aquarius is also such an independent moon sign, because there's just this kind of like inherent, almost disconnection is not the right word, but there's like an inherent kind of detachment to a lot of things, because your emotional world and how you understand that internally is based on the collective. It's not like a personal thing. Yeah, being independent, kind of unconventional, is a big theme already. But then his moon is also trine to Uranus. And so there's this like exploratory, unconventional reiteration that's happening within that. And just like his self-expression being kind of electric and just completely unexpected.
Yeah.
He
also is a really weird dude.
He's an interesting and weird musician.
He's a like fucking weird musician. Have you ever seen? You guys need to watch the Go Insane music video. Swear to God.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
That's what the inside of Lindsey Buckingham's head looks like. I guarantee you. It's like him. I'm gonna transpose it over this video. It's like him climbing through a mirror. First off, this was in his I'm wearing eyeliner era. There's like another version of himself. He points to himself. That the lasers come out of his finger and kill the other self, I guess. And then there are goldfish swimming by him. And I was like, this is what you see at night, isn't it? Like, tell me this is not what you see when you go to sleep, Lindsey.
So Aquarian.
Really is.
That is what he sees. Not even just when he goes to sleep, like when he's just chilling. That's like
Like,
how he daydreams. Yeah. Another aspect of both having his moon in Aquarius and it being trine to Uranus is that like freedom to express himself and to try new things and be who he is and just being attracted to like different and exciting experiences is like needed for him. Like if something makes him feel restricted in his exploration, he will not be happy.
Yeah.
Like it will not feel good. It will not be good. And he will likely like aggressively get the fuck out of that situation. So it's interesting because there is like, again, like just this dynamic of like such deep independence, but then also this like deep draw towards partnership, but then a part of him that like internally resists
yeah.
kind of the confines of commitment and partnership too.
God, I would imagine it'd be really difficult to be in a relationship, like the kind that it seems like someone designed as he is would want,
Yeah.
because you also want so much freedom.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think though, like I mean, I completely agree. And I feel like it's just also a matter of understanding that about yourself though, and being able to find a relationship where like you can have freedom, but like that doesn't take away from the intimacy and commitment that can be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also imagine that getting to that point would be challenging to understand too, because you're just like kind of conflicted. Like, well, I really want this deep partnership and this deep connection, but also like, don't fucking tell me what to do. And like, why are you bothering me about this? Like, get out of my face. Then this other thing about his moon that I think is so cool. Well, I think a lot about his moon is really cool, but I'm also an Aquarius moon, so I naturally think that. But I feel like we see so much of like his musical exploration and like the weird ass things that he did with like Tusk and stuff, like is so his Aquarius moon. Like it's so just like let's try it. Let's just see how it is and like, yeah, it's weird.
Let's do it. It's the future, baby.
Yeah. There's also another aspect that he has to Ceres, an asteroid, which represents women a lot of times in people's charts. And it's a sesquisquare aspect. And so one of the things that this can indicate is that relationships with women just like don't flow as easily as he would like them to, and that he might feel misunderstood by the women he's close to, or he might feel like he doesn't fully understand them and like their emotions and movement. And so there's this need for him to integrate his own emotions. Otherwise, there's like loss of the relationship, which like Stevie. So yeah, it's interesting. It's a big like learning lessons the hard way. I also know that he has a 3 line.
Yeah.
So yep, we definitely see that.
All right. So moving on to the Synastry.
Between Lindsey and Stevie, there's a lot of really interesting synastry that happens between the two of them. And I'm mostly going to talk about how Lindsey's placements affect Stevie's, but really this is just completely intermixed. So that's just how I looked at the charts. But it goes both ways. So first, Lindsey's Juno, which is an asteroid, is right on top of Stevie's Mars. Saturn is also very close by. And Juno is the asteroid that points towards our natural desires within relationship, how that comes through, what we seek in another person, but also how we seek to individualize ourselves within relationship. And it's right on Stevie's Mars, her planet of like assertion and will and how she moves forward. And so his natural desires in relationship are very easily realized through literally just how Stevie naturally is. And as a strong Mars person, he's also really into like her Mars and how that operates. And so because that's so emphasized within his chart, and then there's this like partnership aspect that's going on within her personal Mars, there's just like it's chemistry.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm getting from this. In Caitlin's notes, it says this is a hot combo.
It is a hot combo. It like literally is a hot combo. Their suns also are trine to one another, between 5 degrees of Gemini and 9 degrees of Libra. So it's a pretty tight trine that's happening there, which is just beautiful in the sense of like personal connection, self-expression, being seen through another person. I mean, I think about this with you and I, like we literally have this.
We do.
But it's just that thing that like air signs have together where it's like, yeah, we just like vibe in this way and can get along and can like talk for hours and just like this way in which we get each other.
Yes.
And then for them, with how each of their sun signs are connected to these pieces of themselves that are so creative and artistic and connected to like their art and what they do. Lindsey's Venus is conjunct to Stevie's Chiron. And so this is really interesting. His Venus is in her seventh house. And so when you are the seventh house person, when you're Stevie, that is really positive and like feels really good in a relationship to have someone's Venus there, because the way they naturally want to engage and connect and like be interconnected and intimate with somebody is exactly how you want to be in relationship. But it's on her Chiron. And so it's hitting that point, but it's also hitting her wounds and what she's carried with her and like what has pained her and where she has insecurity.
So like this makes so much sense with him like I desire and I love you and you not wanting me back, I will poke at your wounds.
Totally. And
I will
she's
hurt
like,
you.
and I want you to desire me, but
Yeah.
like it hurts when you do it like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is a really triggering aspect.
Mm.
Can be very healing, but also like really triggering.
Yeah.
Lindsay's Jupiter sits almost exactly on top of Stevie's midheaven.
Mm.
And so this is interesting because Jupiter isn't a personal planet, it's a social planet. So it's not speaking to something exactly about Lindsey and like who he is as a person, but it is the sense of what expands from within him and how these things grow and get bigger is directly connected to and supports Stevie's career and her public
Mm.
image and who she is and how she's seen. This is something that I saw and I was like, this makes so much sense about just the dynamic that they have together and the work that they've created together. And the fact that when they were both found and brought into Fleetwood Mac, everyone was like, yeah, they're joined at the hip, like they're a pair and
Yeah.
we can't separate the two of them. He absolutely expands her career and her visibility. And then his Mars is conjunct to Stevie's Pluto. The Mars being there is like his action of that. And so, like, what I wrote in my notes about this is that this is power play central between the two. Like, it's just the sense of constantly competing for like who is holding the power and who is holding the authority. Stevie's Saturn is really close to it though. Her Saturn's at 17 degrees. His Pluto's at 17 degrees. His Mars is at 16.
That's so interesting. His Saturn's on top of her Mars, and her Mars is on top, or her Saturn's on top of his.
Yes.
That is fascinating.
It's fascinating.
No wonder they were like in a deadlock for their entire relationship.
100%.
Oh my
But then
God.
all the Neptunian stuff is like they can't let it go.
Yeah.
Like they cannot let it go.
Like, but you're my
But it's
soulmate.
also like that. But you're my soulmate. But also like we're constantly fighting for the sense of
God.
who carries the most power here.
Yeah.
And almost wanting to assert that over the other person, which
Mhm.
is really interesting.
Yeah.
His is more stronger in that because of like where his is placed and wanting to hold that, whereas Stevie's is just naturally a little bit more not reserved, but just naturally a little bit less assertive than Lindsay's. But yes, like they're locked into this power play of conflict forever with the
God,
other.
that's so fascinating.
It's so fascinating. I know. I was like, oh yeah, this actually like explains almost everything about them. Okay, their composite chart is the next thing that we'll move into.
Okay, so what's the difference between a synastry chart and a composite chart in astrology?
Excellent question. So synastry isn't a singular chart. Synastry is when we're putting two charts over one another. So when we're looking at synastry, it literally you're seeing two different rings of the chart. One person's ring is their chart in the center, and the other person's is on the outside.
Okay.
And whoever is on the outside is aligned to the first person's chart. So like an example is I used Stevie as the inner ring, and she has a 2-degree Taurus rising. And so it's going to shift Lindsay's chart so that it's aligning the 2 degrees as the rising. And then it's showing us where his placements fall within that, even though that's not his rising. It's going to tell us where his rising is in his chart. So it's showing us exactly how the planets interact with each other.
Okay.
And then the composite chart is a mixture of both of their charts. There are two different calculations for composite charts. I use a midpoint calculation. I find that it seems to be most accurate. So what it's doing is it's taking both of the different charts and it's finding the midpoints of all of their planets. And then all of those midpoints just create its own chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the mean median mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not the mode chart. It's
No, it's
either the mean or the
median.
median. The median.
I think
Yeah.
it's the median.
Median.
Right? I'm pretty sure it's the median.
Median.
Yeah, exactly.
I passed fifth grade math. It's the median.
Synastry shows us how do these people affect one another? How do they engage with one another? What dynamics are being like activated and what's at play? Whereas the composite chart is like, who are these people together?
Okay.
Where do they meet? How do they engage? But like, how do they function as their relationship?
Okay.
Have you heard people say like in a relationship, it's not just you and the other person, but like you exist, the other person exists, and then the relationship is like a third separate thing that happens when you come together.
No, but that's how we look at it in human design.
Okay, I love that. So that's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
That's what the composite chart is. It's like the third thing that happens when you come together. I also just like that from like a spiritual perspective.
It's cute. I like it.
It is cute. Okay, so their composite chart is a Gemini rising. And so their relationships, purpose, and drive, and the way that it shows up is like literally through communicating, sharing ideas and thoughts with themselves and with the world. It's using their voice to share what it is that's actually going on internally, which makes so much sense. They also have a second house stellium in their composite chart. And so they have the Sun, Pluto, Mercury, Ceres, and Mars there. Mars is technically in the third house, but these are all within Leo. And so making money, their security through their possessions and through what it is that they own, is all through the lens of being seen, being recognized, how they, as a couple, come forward to be recognized and be seen. One gets the money, brings them a sense of vitality, but it's through the recognition of who they each are as individuals. But on a greater level than that, like how they come together in that way, that sense of recognition, being able to bring them the resources that they need. So there's this interesting like quality of connection and mutuality, but all of the Leo is like, and as individuals. The midheaven is in Pisces. This is really connecting to like being seen together and on this public scale in a really soulful, creative, expressive, and like idealistic way, like just the sense of like creativity, which is literally what they're known for.
Yeah. It's funny because looking at both of these people's charts, I would have thought that I would see a midheaven in Pisces or some heavy Pisces placements. It didn't really seem like there were any for either of them. But here together as a couple, it's like, here is the creative genius.
Yes.
It's really interesting.
All of the Neptune that they have in each of their charts, I feel like reflects a lot of that as well. But you're right, there isn't strong Pisces between the two of them individually, but with them together, it's very strong. And it also just makes me think about that, like, they did not attempt to be solo artists at first.
They didn't. They never.
No, they never did.
Not at first. They did go off on their
They did
own
later
wings.
on their own, but it was like after they were established and like had a reputation and could do that. But it wasn't something that they, either of them, pursued. And so there is that kind of interconnectedness and dependency on each other to be able to reach that point to then have independence, which is really interesting and like very Piscean, like we're just connected and there's no difference between you and me. And it's very soulful.
Sounds non-toxic.
Yeah, right. They have Chiron in the 6th house. And this was really interesting to me because the 6th house is like the everyday that we show up in, whether that is work, our health, our routines. It's like the mundane things we need to show up in and do to like navigate and keep our lives on track, basically, like to be on top of things. And their Chiron being here shows that there's like a wound that comes through between the two of them in that space. And so it's interesting. That's like how they work and function together is where the deepest wound is.
It's just so funny to be like, the biggest wound in their relationship is just getting by in the day-to-day.
Literally.
Past how much the other person like fucking annoys you.
Literally.
Like, that's like the worst case scenario for a relationship on it. Well, I mean, there's abuse, but like this kind of thing, a daily maintenance, like if you're gonna be with someone long term, you want to at least be able to stand them in the day to day.
Yeah, that's like something that needs to be compatible.
Yeah.
And that's something that like definitely was not compatible. But I think you made a really good point earlier of when we were talking about Stevie's chart and you were saying like how many people that have listened to her music and has that been healing for them moving through a relationship. Like this kind of shows that what they've done on a day-to-day, what they've created is something that can also provide the catharsis for other people. Yeah. It just didn't do that for them.
Hey guys, this is Ariana here to tell you that this is the end of part 1 of the episode. To listen to part 2, where Caitlin and I dive into the human design side of things, which is juicy. It's fun. If you liked part 1, you're really gonna like this part. You can find the link to that in the description or the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. If you could leave a 5-star rating and review, that really helps the show and gets it out to other people who will enjoy it too. That's it from me. I'll see you in part 2.